y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name's Danielle and I'm the owner of Damn Fancy Creations and the Drunk Flamingo Glitter. I am so excited you guys decided to stop by and check out another one of my tutorials. I have been obsessed with all things watermelon lately, so of course I had to put a watermelon something on a cup and I love how it turned out. These are the things I'm going to cover in today's tutorial, but as usual, if you guys ever have questions or need clarification on a step, please feel free to ask below and I will come back and answer them when I get a chance. If you guys want to check out my other groups, remember I have a tutorial group on Facebook. I have our Damn Fancy Tribe, which is our exclusive membership group, and of course our Drunk Flamingo Glitter group. All of those are going to be linked in the description in case you guys want to check them out. So let's go ahead and dive into our tutorial. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and please post your creations in my tutorial group or glitter group because I love to see what you guys come up with. Alright guys, so the very first thing we're going to do is wrap our tumbler with vinyl. I'm using a 16-ounce plump from the Steel Magnolias. And I am just going to cut my vinyl in the size of the tumbler. I believe this one was about 6.5 inches tall. I did cut my vinyl a little bit longer, so there was a little bit of overhang at the bottom, so I could kind of wrap it on the bottom and not have the stainless showing when I'm doing a peekaboo anyway, so it didn't really matter that much. But again, sometimes cups don't always turn out how I plan. I just have to kind of roll with it. So I am just lining up my vinyl, and we are going to wrap the tumbler. I am smoothing out any air bubbles as I go. And I am just wrapping till I get to the other side. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and trim this vinyl. If I were trying to do a wrap that needed to be perfect and seamless, then I would probably do this a little bit better, but since this was a peekaboo design, I wasn't too concerned with how the seam lined up with each other. So now that I have the tumbler wrapped, I am just going to heat the vinyl a little bit with my heat gun just to kind of soften it a little bit so it makes it easy to kind of pull over the bottom. And then I'm going to take my blade and trim off this excess vinyl. And at this time, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with the bottom. I didn't even get the idea to bling it until later. So I did have to go back and trim a little bit more of this bottom off so I could pop the lid, or not the lid, the cap off of the bottom of the tumbler. So now that I realized I wanted to pop my bottom off, I trimmed the vinyl a little bit more, and I just used this really tiny screwdriver to force the bottom up. It's not glued, it's not really attached, it's just kind of sitting on the bottom, and you can just pop it up. I also use a knife sometimes. So after we have that bottom off, I'm going to put it on my turner, and we're going to apply a coat of epoxy. I like to use Artistry Epoxy's 1:1 ratio fast set. If you guys have not tried their products, I do have a code and they are linked in my description. I'm just doing a regular coat of this epoxy, nothing too thick, nothing really thin, but I am coating the entire tumbler. I also get the bottom rim We want to make sure the bottom vinyl is also coated. So we're just doing a light coat on the bottom just to cover that vinyl. It was kind of awkward trying to get in that little curved area, but I did it. And then I am just going to wipe from bottom to top just to get off any epoxy globs or any spot that may be a little too heavy. And I will pop bubbles with my torch, and then we will be ready for our next step. So once that layer of epoxy is cured, we are going to add these little kind of pizza slices for our watermelon. I just created these in silhouette. The shape is already loaded. And I did want a triangle, but with a round bottom. So these were perfect, or a curved bottom, I should say. I believe I made them maybe 1 inch to 3 inches in height. I wanted a variety of sizes. So I started with adding the larger slices, and then I went back in and filled any of the blank space with the smaller sizes. And this is also why I don't really care if the seam matched up, because I just did not place my little watermelon slices directly on that seam. So you won't ever be able to see it. And I am just turning them upside down, sideways, wherever I want to place them. And I'm smoothing them down really well, because we are going to apply some paint, and I don't want that paint to kind of seep under the vinyl. So I am going to use ColorFix paints. I'm using White, Mint, and Raindrops, I believe. I thought I was going to use the darker green, but I decided not to. And the white I am just putting on there just to give it a bright white base. The glitter I'm using is a little bit translucent, so I definitely want the base to be the color closest to the glitter, so I don't have any weird colors kind of showing through my glitter. So I do like to start with a white base pretty much anytime I glitter. I will always spray paint my tumblers white, and then whatever color I am going to be using. So that's what we're doing with the ColorFix paints. And I do like the ColorFix paints too. They give pretty good coverage. And it really doesn't take too much. I also like it because I don't have to spray paint when it's 95 degrees outside. So now that I have this layer on, I am just going to let it dry. I hit it with my heat gun just to speed up that drying process, and then we'll be ready for the next step. So now we're going to use Mint and Raindrops. So I am just going to do 1 stroke of the mint. This is just to kind of mimic how an actual watermelon rind would look. You guys know what a watermelon looks like. Some little stripes are dark green, some are light green. Some of them have a yellow belly. So I just wanted to give it a little bit of a color variation. So we have our light stripes on there, and then I'm going to go in with this, it's like a teal blue. Since we are going for kind of like a cartoony watermelon with like our vinyl and spider gel, I kind of wanted to play a little bit with the colors of a watermelon and not have them be so realistic. So that's why I decided to use this teal. It just gave a little bit of a different color. So I'm just kind of blending the edges a little bit just so they're not such a sharp edge where the colors meet. And now we're going to sprinkle our glitter on. We're going to use Mojito and Irish Buck Cocktail. Both are from the Drunk Flamingo. And when I apply my glitter, I do like to use a tea strainer. This one I got at Walmart probably 5 years ago. I try to look every time I go back and I can never find this exact one, but they do have similar ones on Amazon. The tea strainer just really helps to get my colors to kind of melt together and blend really well versus just a straight line that you would get if you were just pouring it with a cup or something like that. So I am applying my lighter color first, and then we're going in with Irish Buck Cocktail, which is it's kind of like a neon green, but it is translucent. And I am just kind of letting the darker color kind of fall into the lighter color and fill in any of those gaps. And I will point out that I should have used a different color vinyl. I was actually completely out of black vinyl. So it was really hard for me to kind of see where my watermelon slices were. So if you guys are going to do this, typically I don't have problems with black vinyl because I can see it a little bit through the glitter and paint, especially if we're just using a lighter colored paint. So it was pretty difficult for me to peel off the vinyl, as you will see in a little bit. And so I am just going around the tumbler and kind of sprinkling where I think any extra glitter is needed. And then I'm also going to get the bottom. I am just kind of pouring it on there because it was not cooperating with the little tea strainer. It wasn't going where I wanted it to. So now our glittering is complete. So I did just let this sit for just a little bit so I could clean up my glitter mess. And then we will be ready to peel off our watermelon sliced vinyl. So this is what one looks like peeled off. So I would just kind of look to see, like I would kind of scratch it with my tweezers, and if there was white underneath, then I knew that it was vinyl and not the epoxied watermelon vinyl. That is how I could tell where my vinyl was. So this was a pain to do. I should have used vinyl, or I should have put like a little dot of hot glue so I knew exactly where the vinyl was, but I've never had to do that in the past. This was the first time I'd actually struggled with trying to find my vinyl because it was white and blended in with the paint. But I made it work. It was fine in the end. It just took me a little bit longer than typical. And the paint was still wet because I'm impatient and wanted to get the vinyl off so I could see what it looked like. And these are also not my good tweezers, so I have like 5 pair of tweezers, but most of them have caked on paint or crazy stuff. But I don't want to ruin all of them, so I only save my good ones for when I really need them. But already I really loved how this was turning out. So I am not going to show you guys how to peel off every single slice of watermelon. I just wanted to show you guys the basics of it. So once it is all peeled off, this is what it looks like. And I did just kind of take a stiff brush and brush off any glitter that may have fallen in the actual like watermelon section. I tried to get off as much glitter as I could. And any little paint marks that are there, I did clean up with acetone. Just some paint got on there from my tweezers when I was peeling up the vinyl. So after it was dried, I just went back and cleaned it off with acetone. It was just a couple little slices that I had to clean. So I did take this outside and brush it off really well with a chip brush that got off the majority of the glitter, but I did still have a lot of glitter that was stuck to the watermelon section. The glitter just stuck to the epoxy, and one thing that helped get that off was painter's tape. I just had some sitting by me and I was like, well, let's try this. So I just wrapped some painter's tape around my finger and stuck it to the exposed watermelon part, and it actually removed a lot of glitter. It worked really well. And once I got all the glitter off, or as much as I could, I spray sealed it really good with Rust-Oleum 2 times, and then I epoxied twice, and this is what it looks like. So here's what it looks like after epoxy. We are going to clean up our rims. I typically use a 60-80 grit sanding block and a soft sanding sponge. Ignore my lamb's ears. My brother brought some of those over for us. So I am just angling my sanding block and I am just scrubbing around the edge of my tumbler, and this removes 1 to 2 millimeters of spray paint, epoxy, all that good stuff, so that a stainless rim is exposed, so that when we apply our final layers of epoxy, we know that everything is sealed in really well. We have a nice smooth rim. Everything is how it is supposed to be. And I figured that my lamb's ears would get some water while I am cleaning my cup. And then I'm just going to rough up the body of the tumbler. This just smooths out any bumps, waves in our epoxy, anything like that. We want to make sure that everything is as smooth as it can be. And then we're also going to smooth out the bottom. And when I do the bottoms of my cups, I do sand a lot lighter than I do the body of my tumbler and the top of the bottom, or the top of the tumbler. And I like to use this sanding sponge because it's not as fine of a grit. It's a lot softer, so I don't sand through the glitter. I'm sure we have all done that before. Sand through the glitter on the bottom, and then we have to try to fix the bottom. And when I'm done sanding, I wash with Dawn dish soap and then dry really well with a microfiber towel. I don't ever wipe down with acetone or, with alcohol, anything like that. I just wash with Dawn and then dry really well. If it has been sitting for a while before I epoxy, I do wipe it with a coffee filter just to get off any debris that may have floated down onto it. And here's what our rims look like up close. I will show you guys. So y'all can see just the tiniest stainless rim. But everything is nice and smooth. And the same with our bottoms. And now we are ready to apply our spider gel. I'm so excited about how this turned out. If you guys have not used spider gel, it's pretty fun. It can be messy, but it is fun. I'm also going to go add a rind to our slices. So we're using white mint and rainforest, I believe. ColorFix paints, we're not going to be applying glitter, we're just using the paints. And I'm using a small flat brush. I'm just going to go in and add one stripe of white. And I'm really not concerned with getting them perfect. That is not the look I was going for. If I wanted them to be perfect, I probably would have used vinyl or something else. But I just like kind of the abstract look. Just hand painted, you know, that is what I was going for. And I am doing very thin coats to begin with. It did start to get a little awkward in how I was holding my cups. I didn't want to get paint on me or smear the paint. And once I'm done with the first coat, I am going to go back in and do a second coat of white. And I'm also going to add a little bit of the mint paint in with this rind. My plan was to do it when I added the second coat of white, but of course I forgot. So I just went back and added it when I got done with the second coat. So now I'm going back and adding just a little bit of that mint color in, just to kind of break up the white of the rind. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to go back and add the green, or the dark green, I should say. And I'm just using the same brush. And the white part is still a little bit wet, which is what I wanted. So that way the dark green and the white and mint kind of blend together a little bit, and again just give that hand painted look, which makes sense because this is hand painted. And if you are happy with how your tumbler looks at this step, you can definitely stop here, add another layer of epoxy, and you would be done. But I do like to try to show you guys multiple techniques in my tutorials. So once this dried, I did start to add my spider gel, which is something super fun. I've used it for a couple tutorials, as well as my nails that I do. And I do like it a lot. I just put this on my turner. That way I could easily turn my light on it if I needed to. Typically with any sort of gel, UV resin, stuff like that, I do prefer to use the sun to cure it with, but I will set it with my UV light. So if you guys do not know what spider gel is, it basically acts like a spider web. It is a gel, but it is very stretchy. It sticks together. So I am just taking a little bit on my little dotting tool and I am just kind of connecting it where I want it to go. Sorry, my bun is in view right now. This was like the very first one I did, so I was trying to clean up like a little bit. I got a little too much there, and then I just hit it with my light, just basically to harden up the surface so it doesn't move when I'm doing my other little slices. So I'm going to pick another one. And I'm just kind of dragging the gel to where I want it, letting it kind of settle. And I'm not doing perfectly straight lines. I am just kind of going back over the lines multiple times, kind of looking like I outlined it with a fine technical pen. Just taking it back and forth, overlapping. And this is what I did for all of the watermelon slices. So it does take a little bit of time to do all of this, but it is fun. I think it turns out really cool. I think I did a couple more for you guys, maybe one or two more, because this does take a while to do, and I don't want y'all to be here all day. But y'all can see I'm just going back and forth, back and forth. The curves were a little tricky because the gel wanted to go in a straight line. So the curves I did move a little bit slower than the straight lines of the watermelon. And these are just dotting tools. This is just what I had on hand. The kits on Amazon, I believe that they come with a pack of tools and brushes that you can use. I prefer just to use the dotting tools because to me they're a lot easier to clean off than brushes. Since the dotting tool is metal, you can just wipe it with acetone and you're good to go. So I just did, I think, 2 or 3 of these, and then I'm just curing them with my light. I did finish the rest of the cup, and once I finished the entire cup, I moved the cup outside and set it in the sun for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I rotated it, left it another 5 to 10 more minutes just to make sure that everything was good and cured. And once everything is cured, I put it on my turner for another layer of epoxy. And then we will be ready for our next step. So now that our tumbler is completely epoxied, we are going to do the bottom. I'm going to use Artistry Epoxy's Fast Set again. I believe I mixed up 5 mils, 2.5 of A, 2.5 of B. And I am going to color this one with Prickly Pear Margarita, also from the Drunk Flamingo. I wish I would have painted the bottom white to help my glitter colors really pop, but it was just, since I wasn't planning on doing a blinged or glittered bottom, I just didn't really put too much thought into it. Next time I will paint my bottoms. So I am mixing up my epoxy really good, making sure there are no striations. And I'm just going to add some glitter. And we are just going to carefully place our glitter in between the glitter and the little barrier that's on the bottom of the tumbler. This is iridescent glitter, so it does pick up what color is underneath, which is why it appears darker. I wish I would have painted it white or fluorescent pink, but it ended up looking good in the end. And once this little barrier is full, I am going to add a different colored glitter to the same epoxy, and then I'm going to fill the center of the tumbler just so my crystals have a sparkly base as well. So for this, I'm going to add Starburst Martini. Mix it up really well. It is a little bit more opaque than Prickly Pear, so I was hoping if I added a lot, maybe the stainless won't show through. And this is just so our crystals have a sparkly base and it's not just silver underneath them. So I'm going to pop bubbles, let this cure, and then we will be ready to add our crystals. So for most rhinestone projects, I use liquid fusion adhesive, and I like to use my crystal katana. This is my new watermelon crystal mix. It is not released yet, but it will be released when this tutorial goes live. It is a fun mix of red, greens, dark pink, light pink, and a little bit of black. I love how this mix looked. My friend Neely was over and she wanted to mix something up, so we decided to mix some crystals, and she thought it would be really fun to do a watermelon mix, and I thought this was perfect because I was doing this watermelon tumbler. So I just apply a thin layer of liquid fusion on the bottom of my tumbler. It all depends on how quickly you guys work. I work really fast when I do crystals. I've been blinging things since before I even did tumblers. So to me, something like this would probably take me 5 minutes to do. But if you guys are a little bit slower, you might not want to apply adhesive to the full bottom. I would maybe start with a quarter of the bottom and work in sections. You guys can also get these little crystal katana knockoffs on Amazon. I have not used them, but I do know people that do use them, and they're like a fraction of the price if you guys are looking to save a little bit of money. I will link all of this stuff in the description below in case you guys want to purchase anything. And when I bling, I typically bling in a scatter pattern. I personally do not like to work in rows because it gives me anxiety if things are not lining up perfectly straight. It just stresses me out, so I just avoid doing that method. I like the scatter method because you can just use all sorts of different crystal sizes and just fill in little spaces with smaller crystals if you need to. And I personally just prefer the look of the scatter method. And I don't use anything fancy to hold my rhinestones. I prefer to have like a big kind of flat container like this. That way I can shake it, tap it on my table, and flip the rhinestones over if I need to. These smaller containers, like the little triangle ones, they just don't hold as many crystals as I would like them to. So I typically just use a lid or something like that. And you guys can see that I kind of work from the edges into the center. That way I know for sure my edges are going to be perfectly straight. And there's not going to be any weird gaps along the edges. And then I just fill in the center as I go. I do the same thing for blinged tumblers. I always start with the bottom rim, work my way up, and then when I get close to the top rim, I go ahead and bling the top rim completely, so that I know that both of those are going to be even. And once I'm done blinging this bottom, your tumbler is going to be complete. After the adhesive dries, I will take this downstairs and wash it really well. You do not epoxy over your crystals because that will dull the sparkle. The facets on the crystals will not be able to reflect any light, which is how they get their sparkle. So do not epoxy. The adhesive is strong enough to hold them on. And that is it, guys. So here are some finished pictures. I absolutely love how this tumbler turned out. I love this size. Again, it is a 16-ounce plump from the Steel Magnolias. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. And please, if you guys make this or something similar, post it in the group because I love to see what you guys create from my tutorials. Thanks for watching, y'all. If y'all enjoyed this tutorial or learned something new, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to catch the next video coming up that was picked just for you. As always, if you're looking for more tips, tricks, or tutorials, be sure to check out my tutorial group on Facebook or our Damn Fancy Tribe. Both are linked in the description. Thanks for watching.